Evening, everyone. I'd like to call tonight's board meeting of the MSAD 51 Board of Directors on Monday, April 22nd to order. Welcome, everyone. We are going to kick off this evening with a recognition. I'd like to welcome GMS 405 Principal Carol MacArthur for the recognition. Thank you.
Good evening, Carol MacArthur, principal of Greeley Middle School 4-5, and I am here on behalf of the 6th administration as well, Marie Triblecock and Jason Leriviere. We're pleased to recognize our amazing GMS secretarial team, of which we have half right now here. Jenny Booth and Pat Thibodeau, and not here tonight, Jess Windsor and Modesty McNally. These ladies are a highly functional team. They are collaborative and efficient. When something needs to get done, they work together to make it happen. When someone needs to be out of the office, today for example, they just figure out how to cover for one another. They anticipate needs and notice things that could be improved and take initiative to just take care of what needs to be done. They have good instincts about things that need to be brought to the administration's attention, yet also often come with potential solutions in hand. While they each have their individual strengths and delineated responsibilities, they also have been very willing to cross-train, which makes stepping in for one another work so well. Jenny, Jess, and Modesty mainly work in the main office. Pat works in the student services office. No matter which of these offices you enter, whether you are a student, parent, or visitor, they are warm and welcoming. Our offices feel joyful, and these ladies know how to have fun, often dressing up in matching outfits for spirit days and taking part in other silly staff escapades. Marie, Jason, and I worry about very little with them running our offices. In fact, they know more than we do about some things at GMS, and we rely on them to remind us, reteach us, and take care of things for us. On behalf of all of the Greeley Middle School community, we are grateful for each of you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming here this evening to be recognized. I know I've had students at GMS for a number of years, and it's always wonderful to see how they just keep everything going in the front office, so thank you. All right, so let's move to approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of our April 1st, 2024 meeting as presented? Oh, we were so quick. And this is one of our other wonderful GMS. Thank you, Jessica. They went out the other door.
Do you have a speech, Jess?
Yeah, that's. Thank you. So appreciate it. Yes, you're welcome to stay. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Annika. Any questions or comments on the April 1st meeting minutes? Great. All in favor of approval? Thank you. Great. Okay, so now we get to move to our public comment section of the agenda. The board welcomes and recognizes the value of public comment, and to ensure public comment is fair and orderly, we follow procedures outlined in our board policy BEDH, and we ask that all members of the public do so as well. We follow this policy to help keep the meeting civil, respectful, and productive. We also hope that this allows for all community members who would like to speak to be heard. We ask that speakers use the designated podium when making their comments and speak into the microphone. If you are interested in speaking, please wait until recognized by myself, the chair. Comments by individuals are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at a meeting. A clock is visible on screen to help keep track of time. After 3 minutes, the timer will go off and comments should be wrapped up. Please state your name and town of residence before beginning your remarks. Residents and staff members will be given priority over non-residents within the allotted time, and our policy allows for 30 total minutes of public comment, although it can be modified by the board. As a reminder, public comment is not a time for discussion, question, answer, or debate among the board and speakers. Rather, is a chance for members of the public to express their opinions on school and educational matters. The board will not comment on remarks made by speakers during the public comment period. Please know that this does not mean we're not listening, and it does not express any agreement or disagreement with your statement. Lastly, please keep comments respectful and civil. We are neighbors here. Please be kind. That includes members of the audience. Please do not interrupt or respond to a speaker's comments. We also ask that comments are addressed to myself, the chair. Please do not direct comments at or about individuals in our schools or community. I do want to note I will stop any comment that is contrary to these rules, and that individuals who disrupt the meeting may be asked to leave. So I now welcome anybody who's here to speak to the podium. Would anyone like to speak for public comment? Great, thank you.
Hello, my name is Carrie Giannattasio. I live in North Yarmouth, Maine. I'm also the department head of science at the high school. I was unable to be here April 1st because I was sick, so thank you. I would like to also say that the bio department has really been trying hard to grow money on trees. It hasn't happened. I know 4 years ago we lost Rift, a science member, and that was hard, and I really appreciate the school board is trying very hard not to riff people, but the attrition to yet another member of the high school science department is going to have implications. We're all professional, we'll all do what we can do, but what happens is we have a program, a wonderful program, that takes 2 different teachers in science, single numbers, 2 years, so that takes 4 teaching sections to do that program. And then we have everything else, like CP. Several years ago, we got rid of CP2 with the hope to keep the college prep classes lower. And what's happening in science, because we have some people that are life science and some people that are physical science, that just it ends up being kind of like skewed. So we have 1 teacher next year, potentially with 101 students, 1 with 58 students. When I look at across the board the number of students that have had absences, mental health issues, needing walks, and then the time involved in tracking them down, tracking administration, talking to parents, bringing in case managers, that puts a whole nother level. I also teach forensics, and in forensics we have a lab where they burn fabric to identify it. I know, kind of weird, but it's true. And when you have 24 students, like this year I had one group of students that took a piece of rayon this big. I'm like, no, it goes up really quick. There's a lot of safety issues. Our labs are better than most schools, but still not equipped for that number of students. So it's too late to change things, but I just wanted to bring that attention that it's not just the number of teachers, the number of students, but the distribution, and I really want for our world to be scientifically literate, including our CP. Again, thank you for your hard work.
Is there somebody else who would like to speak for public comment? Okay. All right. We will move to presentations. I'm excited to welcome Principal Carol MacArthur back up to start with the wellness plan update as our first presentation.
have to put a code in. Okay. All right. Apologies, I had this all queued up before I came up the first time and then closed my computer. And I'm having trouble connecting to the Wi-Fi. All right, I think I'm good. All right, there we go. First challenge tackled. All right. So good evening. I'm Carol MacArthur, again, principal of Greeley Middle School, grades 4-5. I'm also the facilitator of the District Wellness Committee since 2017. It's been a while since I've provided an update to the school board on the work of the Wellness Committee, so I'm happy to be here tonight to speak on behalf of an amazingly committed group of people. Tonight's presentation will include some background information about the District Wellness Committee and our wellness plan, as well as the committee's work this year. In addition, I've also invited our food services directors, John Carlson and Molly Costable, to speak about a specific aspect of our wellness committee's focus on nutrition. Our board policy, JL, School Wellness, directs that the District Wellness Committee be comprised of members from specific stakeholder groups. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of the individuals listed on this slide and all the individuals who have previously served on this committee for their commitment to our work. In particular, our parent representatives, Martha Leggett and Chris Lindsay, have been on this committee since it started 7 years ago. They both intend to move on at the end of this school year, so we will be looking for new parent representatives for the start of next school year. My shameless plug. The committee has two main responsibilities, as articulated in the policy: to serve as an advisory group on all things student and staff wellness, while ensuring we're meeting federal and/or state law requirements as it relates to our goals, strategies, and plans. The District Wellness Committee originated from the 2015-2018 strategic plan, with the goal of developing a district wellness plan. That plan, as well as the board policy, JL, were drafted, adopted, and ready for the 2018-2021 strategic plan, and then extended due to the interruption from the pandemic and reprioritization of district and school-based work. The committee's work since 2018 has been on the oversight of the implementation of the wellness plan. The wellness plan was drafted in 2017 and includes 6 priority areas. Each of those have defined objectives, action steps, and timelines for completion. The initial work in each of those priority areas was completed by ad hoc groups. Timelines and action steps are reviewed annually by the District Wellness Committee and have been revised over the years in response to the work done by those ad hoc committees and to fit with our district and school priorities. In response to the overwhelming workload placed on educators during the hybrid school year, an additional ad hoc group was created to address staff well-being. At the end of the 2021-2022 school year, all ad hoc groups were dissolved, given that the majority of the remaining action steps were items to be carried out by school administration and staff. So circling back to the committee's role to oversee the implementation of the wellness plan, we determined at our final meeting last spring that the two priority areas that needed attention this school year were homework and nutrition. With regard to homework, the ad hoc committee drafted a revised policy that was adopted by the board in February 2020. As we all know, very soon after that date, all priorities in education shifted, and the subsequent action steps were left untouched. Last spring, the Wellness Committee identified this priority area as one to address this school year, although the work remaining needed to be addressed outside of the committee's scope. To date, All schools have had staff review the revised homework policy and a summary of the current research provided by the homework ad hoc group. Schools are in varying stages now of comparing current practices and reviewing and revising handbook language. In the fall, schools will inform students and families of the revised policy and any relevant updated homework practices. Once that communication happens, all of the homework action steps will be completed. When it comes to school nutrition, the Wellness Committee has mainly been focused this year on two aspects: food offerings in our cafeterias and health education. Our committee has benefited from the partnership with our food services department as we review the wellness plan action steps related to food offered through our cafeterias. Since the plan was drafted, many conditions in food services have changed. You'll hear more on this shortly from Molly Costable and John Carlson. But in short, our committee has spent time this year learning from them about offerings, guidelines, challenges, and goals. The second aspect of our focus has been on health education standards that include nutrition. These main learning results were revised in the spring of 2022. At our committee's most recent meeting, we reviewed the standards to gain an understanding of what is expected to be addressed in K-12 schools. Our school staff representatives left our last meeting with, ironically, homework. They're gathering information from colleagues in different departments so the committee can better understand where and how the nutrition health standards are being addressed. At our next meeting in a couple of weeks, we will discuss ways to further promote nutrition education in our schools and enhance our communication about our school service, food service offerings. Before turning the microphone over to Molly and John, I'd like to close with some overriding next steps for the committee as we move into the next few years. So a revised draft of the school wellness policy will go before the policy committee next year. The substantive changes account for free meals now being offered to students. Before going to the policy committee, the revised policy will be reviewed by our legal counsel to ensure it meets all DOE requirements and federal regulations. The committee has one more meeting in May where we will set goals for the next school year. And once the next iteration of the district strategic plan is adopted, the work of the committee will shift to drafting a new wellness plan. So I'd be happy to take questions about the Wellness Committee's work before inviting Molly and John to speak specifically about food offerings in our schools.
I don't know if others have questions, and since we're going to get more information on the nutrition part of your focus, I was just, can you give me a couple highlights on what happened in the priority area of homework, what some of the more recent research that was shared, what information that provided, that, and what maybe changes that you're looking to implement?
Sure. A lot of so there's a lot of conflicting research out there, right? You can pretty much find whatever you're looking for. But essentially, the ad hoc group provided us a one-page summary to the committee, anyone outside of the committee. And it talked about things like homework being meaningful, having some sort of opportunity for students to practice things that they have been taught, not that that they should be having to struggle to learn content on their own before coming back into class. There's varying research out there about the amount of time allocated. So, you can find some research that's very specific to giving guidelines such as 10 minutes per grade level, and it accumulates over time. Other research is that, it can vary based on the task. So I know I can speak for GMS 4.5, and the work that I led my staff through was to inquire what type of assignments are being assigned, and what task or skill are teachers asking students to do? So is it just practice? Is it doing projects? Is it, study skills, things of that nature? About how much time it takes for students to complete. We have to recognize that there's a wide range of time that one assignment would take a class worth of students based on their own study skills, their ability to attend for a duration of time, how easily they can work through the material, how challenging it might be. So really looking at what would the average amount of time be, what's the frequency, sometimes you might have spelling work that's a few times a week versus everyday reading expectations. So each building administrator walked their staff through a process of kind of analyzing what we currently do and then comparing it to the policy to say, how does it fit or not fit? There are, in the previous iteration of the policy, there were a lot of specifics that actually in some ways, I think policy in general, the more specific a policy is, the more it hamstrings, those who are trying to implement it. So there was a lot of specificity that I think was brought to a bit of a more general, higher level to allow for that flexibility when you're talking about homework for a third grader versus homework for an advanced placement high schooler. So it really does, it keeps it general enough to allow for that flexibility.
Does anyone else have questions? Thank you.
Sure. So I'll invite Molly and John up.
Thanks for inviting us to share what we're doing in the cafeteria. Both of us had the opportunity to serve on the District Wellness Committee pre and post COVID. Last year, school nutrition seemed to come to the spotlight a bit for what we were and were not serving. When COVID hit, we had to essentially wipe the slate clean and rebuild the school nutrition program from scratch. It has been a whole different ballgame since we, A, served lunches in the classrooms during COVID, and B, started serving breakfast and lunch for free to all students. We know that there are a lot of different opinions on what is offered for school breakfast and lunch. We have quite a few considerations to make a menu, add an item into the rotation, or have as a special. Here's what we will talk about more in depth.
So policies and guidelines. The state of Maine has a set of guidelines that we have to follow for our entrees and for our meals. We have to ensure that all of our items and meals include all of the required guidelines. They include things like the type of milk we offer, the grains that are offered, as well as calorie, sodium, and saturated fat content. There's also components that we have to take into consideration, and components are fruits, veggies, milk, protein, and whole grains. Students are required to take a certain number of components at each meal period. This can be confusing for students and can cause substantial food waste. We're very grateful to the Green Team in the middle school for starting a bountiful box to minimize waste and provide much needed snacks for kids that need them throughout the day.
Financial and staffing. We're a self-sufficient department. Like restaurants, our product prices fluctuate, supply chain can be hit or miss, and staffing had been a constant struggle since we were all at bare bones during COVID. We are responsible for our staffing costs, equipment costs, maintenance costs, and food/paper costs. Staffing pre-COVID was 15 employees. During COVID, we dropped to 8. We have started to rebound and currently have 12 and 1 substitute. As you can see from the chart, we are maximizing our output with the staffing levels we have. We can successfully run the menu/system that we have with the staffing levels we have. Adding complexity to the menu would cause too much stress on our staff. As it is most days, we can absorb call-outs, we have time to get ahead on tasks, and have time to run specials. It also allows us time to make connections with students. Selling a la carte items also helps with our financials. Students from 6th to 12th grade are able to purchase a la carte items if they have cash or a positive balance on their account. A la carte items include snacks like chips and cookies and drinks, as well as second helpings of breakfast or lunch.
Logistics. We need to make sure kids can move smoothly and quickly through the lunch lines. Lunches range from 20 to 25 minutes, depending on the school you're in. It's an appropriate amount of time, but we have to be efficient getting kids through the lunch line to give them ample time to eat and socialize. That means that we have to streamline and make sure the line looks the same every day so students know what to expect. We can't offer too many choices, especially at the elementary school level, or the line will slow down too much. We have to ensure that any toppings bar or a la carte options that we have, which are offered at the high school and the middle school, are placed correctly to help with the flow of traffic. We're constantly adjusting production numbers, we're making daily specials and encouraging kids to take what they will eat, as well as use the bountiful boxes to cut back on food waste. Finally, we're managing supply chain and delivery issues every week. Sometimes the truck break down, sometimes items are out of stock, and other things that we just have no control over and we don't typically have any notice on either.
What we're doing well. We feel that we run a pretty smooth operation that balances healthy options with items students love in an efficient and timely manner while managing waste well. We offer a dozen fresh sides with each day in each school. We offer tons of choices for entrees. Most schools in the area offer 2 to 3 options daily. We offer a minimum of 6. Our salads, parfaits, and specialty items like smoothies and pasta salads are great fresh options that we offer. We have worked really hard to partner with local businesses. We have a great relationship with farmer staff at Farm to Table Kids and Sweetses. We are always looking to add more local vendors. We help with the functional life skills programs. Students help put boxes away, break down boxes, stock shelves, and vending machines. These are great exercise and job opportunity skills for these students, and our staff loves the interaction. Our students love, maybe even look forward to our specials. Overripe bananas, our tomorrow smoothies, yesterday's chicken is today's wraps. We have a great relationship with the food pantry. They are happy to take used equipment and small wares, as well as food items when we go on vacations. The government provides us with food that we use quite well. We find ways to incorporate into our menus to maximize those resources. Examples of commodities we regularly use: they provide us with frozen fruit that we have used for parfaits and smoothies, chicken and beef for salads, tacos, burritos, pizza, toppings, and more. We have done a really good job of zeroing in on all the items that our students will consume and items they will not. What we are working on: we would love to include as many local vendors as we can, and we'll be adding more in, as well as adding homemade items. Homemade breakfast items, this has been on our minds for a while. We're just trying to figure out if we can and how to execute it. We try to market what we're doing, but we have a lot of room to grow with this. This is a work in progress. All of this happens because of the incredible hardworking staff that we have. They are the most efficient and consistent people you'll meet. They have great ideas, and they're always looking to streamline and take great care of our students. Thank you.
And then we just have one page of pictures just to show what we serve. So the top corner is what our sides look like at the high school. And then up at the top, that's the middle school today after lunch was over. And then the next one was our cold options. And then down at the bottom is our salad bar at the middle school. One of our specials is a muffin top sandwich that we like to do. It has peanut butter and bananas in it. And then some fresh pico that when we had burrito bowls recently, and salad and parfait for the Wilson School.
Thank you for ending on the visuals. Those are beautiful. Is there any questions?
I just wanted to follow up. Last year you were talking a lot about the managing waste and especially training the younger students to separate. Have you seen any changes or improvement in that, or?
Well, we are looking to, I'm on a committee for next year to manage the food waste. And there's been some improvement. The one thing at the Mabel Wilson School, we don't really limit them choices of fresh fruits and veggies, but we try to work with them in the cafeteria so they don't take too much. But that's probably the biggest waste I see. But I go back and forth on, you know, most of those kids will eat it. Sometimes they just run out of time. So
Yeah, it's a lot to manage,
Yeah.
I would say that at my schools, as far as the kitchen waste, we have almost none. We are able to reuse everything, and we've managed our production numbers. So from time to time, we'll run out of sandwiches or something like that. But for the most part, we don't waste anything.
I have a question. This has to do with local vendors. It's a somewhat complex question, so if you just forgive me in advance. So I'm chair of the Sustainability Committee of the town, and we completed a climate action plan, which was approved by the council 2 years ago. When we did our survey of the residents, we were surprised to find that the most important priority of our residents was to have locally grown food in Cumberland. So what have we done with that? In our climate action plan, we have asked the town council to set aside at least 6 3 to 5 acre parcels of town-owned land with high-quality agricultural soils in the event we can recruit a farmer to do it. And we have done that. And 2 of them are right nearby here. One is at Twin Brook, and the other is in the Drowned Farm. 2 spots with great agricultural soils. And as you know, the Drowned Farm, the intent of the donor was to support education. So our next step is to find a farmer. We've got the land. And what it would be great, I think, for us to do is to hook them up with a school, possibly with a contract, so that this person starting out in business in Cumberland would have some of their produce already paid for it. So how does that sound? Could that work?
Yeah, that sounds great. We're always looking for local people to buy from. And we've been partners with Sweets since I've been here for 23 years and the farm to table. So yeah, we could definitely put me in contact with a person. I'd love to talk to him.
Good. And we're hoping, looking to the students here, that high school kids, might enjoy working on the farm, because labor is a little hard to come by. So maybe there could be a course, in the wellness course in the high school, whereby students could take I'm kind of rambling here, but take a special, which would be, work with the farmer to actually get their hands dirty and bring the food over to the kitchen. So anyway, we're having fun with it, and I'm glad you're open.
Yep.
Other questions? I did work on my school farm in high school, so I understand that model. Go ahead.
I have sort of a specific question. One year, I don't remember if it was pre or post-COVID, but on the school menu, there were great pains taken to say, like, chicken nuggets with whole grain breading, like hamburgers with whole grain buns. And is that still done, but just not put, okay, because it was,
Yes, it is, yeah.
it was very, very busy, and I get it. But I think that's a great thing, so thank you for clarifying that, and thank you for the work you do. We're grateful for you.
Other questions? Yes, thank you so much. Really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Great. Okay. Moving on to our next presentation, which is the fiscal year 25 recommended budget summary. And Superintendent Porter is going to be leading that. At least that's what it says on the agenda.
Yes, I will be. I just wanted to say thank you to Carol, John, and Molly for their presentation tonight. And thanks for Carol. She's been facilitating the committee forever, as long as I can remember now. And also to John and Molly, they are not just supervisors. They actually they're working every day. I see John in the washing dishes frequently when there's not enough help. I see Molly in the high school kitchen or the middle school kitchen taking money, or not money, but the cards from the kids, or putting food out. I mean, they're just always doing something. And just thank you to all 3 of you for your work.
Thank you. You're amazing.
So I'm just gonna, this is obviously, most of this information tonight is old information. It's just a recap of what is going into the recommended 2025 budget. So this is more or less a summary. There is some new information in here as well, and I'll point that out when we get to it. There are very few adjustments that have been made to this budget since March 4th, when I first presented the proposed budget for next year. The only two areas that have really changed, besides some up and down minor adjustments that we always make, is that our employee health insurance did come out a little bit higher than we had anticipated and initially budgeted, around 7%, or we did budget 7%. Actually came in at 8.6%, which is the highest I've seen in many years. I think insurance is going up like everything else. So that added $93,000 to our budget, or would have added $93,000. I'll explain that in a minute. And the next item that's an adjustment is something I've mentioned publicly before, is that there was one area that we were very concerned about in terms of a groups of students that we're not sure they're going to meet their graduation requirement for physical education. And this was an item that we have gone back and forth on with the high school, and I am recommending tonight, as part of the proposed budget, that this item be put back in. We used to have 2 full-time PE teachers at the high school, and a few years ago, we went down to 0.8 for the second position. And as a result of that, we ended up having to offer summer credit recovery for groups of students. We do not do that anymore for PE in order for students to get their credit. We're finding that we're back in the same spot. If we don't offer credit recovery in the summer for PE, then we're going to end up with the same issue of students not being able to attain their PE credit. And we really think they should be getting those credits during the school year and not in the summer. You'll see that, so that is the second real adjustment to the budget that you'll see since March 4th, and those are the only 2 adjustments. Because we were able to go back and look at our health plan selections for individual staff, we have staff that change health plans. We saw some savings there, and since March 4th, we have had several retirements that have come in. On March 4th, generally we might have 1 or 2 that we know of that are retiring, and we cannot budget unless we actually get notification that someone's retiring. Since March 4th, we have a deadline of April 15th for people to notify us for budget purposes and for sick leave payout per contract. And so we got several notifications by the 15th of April, and as a result, we were able to absorb all of these changes and not increase the overall budget. So that's a plus, because we're talking over $100,000 that otherwise we would have been trying to add to the budget. But I appreciate the finance office's work on that and really scouring those insurance lines and finding the ability to cover that. And just, this is again this is not new information, this is old information, and I'm not going to go through all these, but there's $212,000 in this budget for new priorities. We generally have a lot more than $212,000. This is a very tiny amount of what we generally are proposing to move things forward, and you'll note that little thing at the bottom flickering at you, that there were actually $1.36 million in new proposals that were put forward for next year, and we did not put those into the budget. We did not advance those in the proposed budget. So 86% of all proposals that were put forward for new proposals for next year were not considered as part of this budget and are not in the budget. Additionally, as again, not new information, there's 3 staff positions in this budget that have been eliminated, and all 3 were through attrition. Looking at class sizes, we did a class size review throughout the district in the fall, and even though our enrollment is increasing, we still have some COVID era class sizes that we needed to get back to pre-COVID. So we were able to find 3 positions again through attrition, no one has lost their job, that we're able to reduce or eliminate these 3 positions, 2 elementary at the Wilson School and a science position at the high school. So these are the new numbers, and I know that these numbers are a little small. They're in the board packet if you want to refer to them there. But you'll see some slight adjustments from March 4th when I first presented this. The red numbers on the variance and the change columns are the new numbers, and right below that in smaller print, and sorry if it's too small, are you'll see the black print is from March 4th. But generally speaking, without going through all these, most of these are very small changes because we're talking about a very small reduction to the budget. So overall, we not only absorbed that money, but we're able to make those minor adjustments. I mentioned at the beginning that we do all the time after we've initially presented. We get more information about casualty insurance or health insurance. And I already mentioned the health insurance, or we go back and we look at all of our staffing lines and make sure that we have budgeted each one of those, or there's a new need, or there's something that we need to take out of the budget. We continue doing that process right up to this point. So that budget is looked over 100 different times before and after the initial presentation. So we're actually able to reduce the budget slightly from 6.87% on March 4th down to 6.82% of an increase. That's a variance of $3,206,779, which is down from the variance on March 4th. So the total budget is that we're proposing tonight is $50,250,107, which is down from just slightly from March 4th. So the revenue has not changed. There's not been any changes in our revenue that we forecasted. We expect this to be our revenue. I think obviously the biggest place to point out is the state subsidy. We do get a lot of state aid in this district compared to area districts around us. Next year we'll be getting about $1 million more than the current year, $15,614,832, just over $1 million. And our total revenue is $1,042,837, and for a variance. Our total revenue is $15,837,755. So taking into account all of our revenue. So the tax effect in Cumberland has not changed since we're not forecasting a change at this time based on March 4th, so we're still at 3.98% increase, or 88 cents on the mill, which is $88 more per year to support education per $100,000. So if you have a $500,000 home, take $88 per $100,000 and multiply it by 5. 88 times 5. I don't have that math for you right now. North Yarmouth, same thing. 3.13% is the forecasted tax increase, 60 cents on the mill, $60 per $100,000 to support the schools for an increase. Outside of the general fund, I also, this is not something I presented on March 4th, but I do this generally at this time for the board and the public, just to let you know that we do receive other funds that are outside of the general fund, which is the operating budget. This year, we have just over $117,000 in what we call ESSA funds, which are federal funds, Title 1A, which is literacy, Title 2A, which is professional development, and Title 4, which is safety. So in all of those areas, that's the amount we get. It's not a lot of money, $117,000, considering that we have a $50 million budget that we're proposing. However, it is money that we spend. We pool all those monies from those titles, and we help pay for our literacy specialist at the Wilson School. For local entitlement, which is special education, we receive a lot more money for local entitlement to support special needs, not only from the state through subsidy, but also through the federal government, which is local entitlement. It flows through the State Department of Education, but actually originates from the Federal Department of Education. So we received just over $500,000, $511,000 in local entitlement. Because I'm presenting the budget earlier this year and we're in an earlier process, we usually have preliminary numbers on both of these, or at least one of them. And this year, it's so early, I don't have any of those numbers. Friday, we're supposed to be getting our ESSA preliminary numbers, and then local entitlement we won't get for a while. Contingency is also outside of the general fund, and this is an emergency fund, just like you would have in your home or the town has or any organization. With a $50 million proposed budget, it's important that we have emergency funds available in the event that an unbudgeted expense comes up. So we're asking the voters at the district budget meeting on May 9th, not March 9th, May 9th, to put $250,000 aside for contingency. This is something that we ask to do each year.
Jeff, let's also note that that doesn't increase the tax rate. That comes from funds that we are already undesignated funds. So,
thank you. Yep. So as Scott said, that does not increase taxes. These are not separate things. We're talking about this is outside the general fund. So for capital projects, again, this is not within the general fund that we have. These are monies that come from fund balance. And each year we ask voters to transfer some of the fund balance so that we can keep up with our facilities. And we've been doing this year after year. Last year, if you remember, most of the money went to, that was earmarked to go to modulars and temporary space. We're not asking for additional facility projects this summer for temporary space. We've increased the lease amount, which is in the operating budget. We can't put that in capital reserves, but these are projects that need to be completed. They've been on lists for a long time. We work with our administrators around these capital projects, but just under $1.4 million in proposed summer facility projects, range everything from putting windows in our high school cafeteria, which has been on our capital improvement list for a number of years now. We have no natural daylight in that particular room. Making sure that we're fixing safety areas, especially in the high school. We're unable to lock off areas of the high school after hours for events. And we have people wandering through the entire building because we do not have the right doors to be able to lock down certain areas of the building. That's something that is a critical safety need. Homeland Security, when they did our audit a few years ago, pointed that out to us, and that is something that we really need to do. Our safety committee is also recommending that we get this done. Other areas are enhancing our pool area, again, safety, how people exit and enter the pool. Again, we do not have a way of locking that down from the rest of the high school, so this would take care of some of those things. The Mabel I. Wilson floor, there's areas in the corridors at Mabel I. Wilson School that are quite frankly coming up. They're chipped. There's whole pieces that are coming up, and we need to go ahead and fix them. That's been on a list for a while. We have entry doors at the middle school that go to the playground that have been corroding for years. We've got to replace those. Again, I'm not talking about every item, we're just going through some of these. The stage door at the middle school, which is the movable door on the stage, we use the stage as a music room as well during the day, and that stage door has to be opened frequently. That's a movable wall between the stage and the gym where PE classes are, then we have a music class on the stage. That door is no longer operable safely, and it needs to be replaced, and we've just got to do it. Same thing with the retaining wall at the middle school. Pieces of the retaining wall that are coming down between the middle school and the high school going up there. I think that covers a lot of the big ones. A lot of it you can see are safety issues that we've just got to tighten up our safety, and these are recommendations that we're moving forward with. The SRO office, you'll see a demo and removal of the SRO office. That office sits in the middle of the high school lobby. That is not that's something I've been talking about for years. That shouldn't be right there in the middle of the lobby. We need to move the SRO's office, and we have an area down the hallway that we would be doing that. So opening that space up. Food service. Obviously, John and Molly just talked to you about this. This is a self-sufficient and outside the general fund. The net amount that is that we're expecting at the end of this school year will be $288,000, just under $289,000 in the positive. We have a plan for using that money. We don't just bank the money every year. The plan is to update equipment in our kitchens, and we do that on a continuous basis. We have equipment that is aged and needs to be replaced. We're also going to be looking at new equipment and putting it on a plan for the new school if it passes. So expenditure and tax history for SAD 51, we went back 10 years, or to 2015, FY 2015. And looking at 2025, Cumberland's tax increase is 3.98 this year, as we're proposing, and 3.13 in North Yarmouth. You'll see that Cumberland's over the last decade, the average has been 2.72% and 2.64% in North Yarmouth. Our expenditure increases have been 4.34% over the last 10 years when you average those. You can see those by year. When we look at the regional comparison for expenditures and taxes, you can see where SAD 51 falls in. We don't have information from some districts. Most of them did report, but our expenditure increase is about in the middle, again, considering we have no data from 3 districts. And then on the tax side, we are the 3rd lowest on taxes. Again, we don't have data yet from some of our districts, and I'll update when we have that information. But when you look at other districts around us in this area, they are higher than we are. So the raw and adjusted per pupil cohort comparison, we compare our district usually to Yarmouth and Falmouth. Those are the 2 districts on either side of us. And each year I give this information to the board. One of the important pieces to our budget is the revenue. Because we get so much state subsidy, when you look at our gross budget and you divide it by the number of students that we have, you get a raw per pupil cost. Ours is $22,935 per student. Yarmouth's is $23,584 per student, and Falmouth's is $24,924 per student. That's just taking the gross budget that's being proposed, the number of students that we have in the district, and that's your per pupil. So we're the lowest at this point. When you take in the consideration of the revenue and then tax assess out with the number of students, we're actually considerably lower because we're getting a lot of state aid. So per student with the revenue factored in, for our district's 15,706 students, that is taxable to the local community. Yarmouth, it's 18,660 per student, and Falmouth, 19,889. And then you can see that in a visual format as well. So the summary of the budget this year, if we had to summarize it, we've put this on social media, and we put this out in a couple different ways. We'll keep putting this out. Again, the tax effect for the proposed budget is 3.98% in Cumberland, 3.13% in North Yarmouth. Salary and benefits account for 81% of our entire budget. It's $212,000 in new proposals in this budget, $320,000 in reductions for staff. There's a modular classroom lease increase of $300,000 that's built into this. That's because we're carrying forward a lease that we had paid off at this time last year, but we now have to put it back into the budget. And that does not have anything to do with the summer projects. That's a separate piece. The capital reserves is outside the general fund. This is part of the general fund I'm talking about. The average mill rate increase over the last decade is 2.7% increase average for 10 years for SAD 51. And finally, these are the next 3 steps in the budget process. May 9th is a district budget meeting in the Arts Center, 7 o'clock. And Tuesday, June 11th is the referendum, all day at the two polling stations. And the 17th, the board certifies the results of the BVR at the board meeting on the 17th. So that's a summary.
Thank you. I know a lot of work has gone into this, and it was nice having some of the comparative information. That was some of the newer information that we hadn't
We'll continue to look at that.
seen yet. I did want to make a note that there was an article in the Forecaster posted on April 16th about our budget that had included a reference to items that were not funded as part of this budget, which included electric buses and diesel school buses that we did not put forward in this budget, and that's since been corrected. I know we had some questions that came up about that, but
Those items were mismatched. Those were part of the 1.4 million or so that were not advanced in this
yes.
budget.
So yeah, and that's really important. Like every year, you know, the board and the district grapple with a whole list of requests that are not put forward into the budgets, and some of them have probably been on that list for
Years and years.
years and years.
Yep.
So just even so that it's not saying because they weren't put forward this year that then they will be included next year. It's just that some of those may or may not be included in years to come.
Right. Yeah, and I want to thank the Finance Committee for several months of working through this. The budget priorities before I even presented initially on March 4th, to thank and Mr. Poulin in the Finance Office for all their work, just making all the adjustments, looking at the health insurance lines, and just making sure this budget is efficient as possible.
And I know you also have conversations about some items. Is there other ways to fund these that isn't putting it in the budget? And that's always being looked at, whether that's state funding, grant funding.
Revolving renovations, and that's not even part of this discussion. We have 2 state projects that were approved by voters previously that will be done this summer. So both those projects will be completed hopefully by the end of the summer or into the fall.
Great. Other questions? Great. Denny?
Jeff, in response to a question between meetings, I was asked if students' numbers have increased. And what I did was look at the 2 printouts, FY23 and FY24, and I came up with 50 more students. Is that in the ballpark?
Yes, it is overall. Yes,
Yeah.
that's our overall.
And so I think it's important to talk about that, because I did listen to a town council meeting the other day, and one of them said, oh, the student count is flat.
Mhm.
The district is just flat, and they're asking for more money. That's sort of party line. But we have an increase of students, which I believe is like 3%. 50 divided by 2,100 is about 3% increase in students. And then we are lugging $300,000 of a modular lease, which is new money, new expense. So
And
this is
another-
why it's easy for me to advocate for this budget, because we have more kids, we got more spending on and we have quite a frugal budget. That's my part. So are my facts?
Your facts are right, yes. We have about 50 more students. I do the enrollment report in September, so I have to go back and think, but it was around 50 students more this year. Plus, we're looking at
Which
3
is
staffing.
3% more kids.
Right, which is staffing reductions included in this budget.
So, holy cow.
Yeah.
Tom?
So I'm reluctant to go after one thing that is not actually part of the budget. It's just a bit of sticker shock. Can you explain to me about the GMS stage door again and why it costs $150,000?
I can talk about it, but I think Scott probably has more details.
Yeah, so that would come from capital reserve. That wouldn't come from our general fund budget. So those are monies that we've already accumulated to transfer for capital reserve from, previous budget years in excess revenues. So the stage door at the middle school, we've actually had issues where students have been underneath the stage door with their legs, and it's a pretty heavy door. And it's been there for 20 years now with constant pulling and opening. And what it is it isn't just the door itself and the components, it's actually the structures of where it hangs from the top of the stage area. And the door literally takes several people to open each time, to open and close it, just because of how it's deteriorated over time. And we fix it consistently over time. So now what we're looking at is replacing it with a different style, which will open and close appropriately and won't be a safety hazard. So, and that's why it's not just putting a door up, it's rebuilding all the framework around the stage and all of the rollers and the tracks and the other things that have to take place in order to do that.
And the door is a necessary feature. It couldn't be replaced with a curtain or something like that?
No, it's a necessary feature because it's an insulated stage door, and where we have music that's up on the stage, and then stuff going on at the gym at the same time, it really needs to be closed, and not just a curtain that's pulled across, because you got music playing and then you got noise in the gym at the same time. So
it essentially creates a separate
room in a separate area.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the stage has been used as a music room for a long, long time now. It's been used as a third music room for the number of students that we've got at the middle school. Sorry, fourth music room. We have 2 out back.
Just a couple quick questions. So on the retirements, are those all positions that we will be looking to fill?
All except for the positions that have been slated for elimination.
Right, which we knew of
But the
prior
rest
to
of them we
March
will
4th,
be.
but all of the new ones will be filled?
Yes.
Okay. And the contingency amount, that's the same amount that we've asked for in previous years, is that right?
That's the amount that usually we ask voters to put into emergency funds so that we can maintain an emergency fund, which is generally around 700,000 to 800,000, so that we can take care of anything that comes up.
And then I think the only other thing that, sometimes I hear some confusion about, so just to say publicly, is emphasizing the assessed property value and how that might differ from what someone gets for an estimate from a real estate agent or pays
It's a
for
really
their
great
home.
point. Looking at your assessed value on your property tax, not the market value, obviously. It's so inflated right now. But it's the assessed value of your home is what we're talking about for tax purposes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, good point.
Christina?
You mentioned it already, but the SRO office that's going to be demoed, they're going to be moved where, and do we?
In the same area of the high school, it'll be down the hallway. The SRO will have a door that comes out into the hallway, so it'll be in the same vicinity, near the athletic office, I believe.
So there's not a lot of cost in a new office for the
No,
SRO.
in
We've
fact,
got
it's just a
spot.
door. Some of the work is really the demo. There is discussion about, instead of completely demoing it, making it into having another use like concessions or whatnot. That has not been finalized yet. I think that's still under discussion.
Okay, but there's no particular cost to getting a new office for the SRO?
No, just a door.
Great, just a door. Not a stage door, just a door.
Just a door.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been some discussion about, at the high school, we're one of the few schools who don't have a concession area for games and so forth, so it would be possibly converting that over and helping the boosters be able to raise money by having and running concessions outside the gymnasium. So that was the last discussion that we were having around that space.
Denny?
Following up, Jeff, there was a discussion about redoing the patio for the high school kids.
Yes.
Outside the cafeteria.
And that's on the list.
It's on the list to be done?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
It's on the proposed list. And this list will come before the Facilities and Finance Committee on Friday as well. Since this sits outside the general fund, you're actually not voting on this tonight. That goes to the district. It's something that you'll be talking about at the Facilities and Finance meeting, goes to district budget meeting on the 9th.
Would our student representatives be willing to comment on the use of that patio and whether it needs to be upgraded?
What?
No, I'm speaking about
Yeah, what materials are being upgraded to?
So we're taking the outdoor seating. I think there's still a design on that, but we're expecting it to be about $100,000 to upgrade all of that for safety considerations, because we've got vehicles, as you know, going right nearby. I think that's the biggest piece. We want to make sure there's some sort of a barricade or a barrier between the roadway, the parking area, and where the seating is. And also, right now, there's nothing underneath the seating. And as you probably know, you get splinters by sitting on some of those seats. And it is well utilized during the fall and spring. I don't have, you guys can talk about that more. I've seen all the students that like to be outdoors. So we want to, it's been on a list again for years. Mr. Francis has been advocating for this for a long time. I know that prior to, students and administration have been advocating a lot for this. So we just think it's something we've been on our list and we want to pick it away. Do you want to talk about it at all?
Yeah, the outdoor seating is used a ton. Like when you go out there during lunch, every single table is full, especially during the fall and the spring. But sometimes even during the winter, people sit out there. So it's definitely a good investment, I think.
Depending on how mild the winter
Yeah.
day is. And is that really the only opportunity that you might have to go outside during the day? Because, I mean, maybe if you have a gym class or something, but that would be, yeah. Okay.
In the interest of reuse, recycle, there might be some white fencing available if school proposal, we have a lot, right?
Yeah.
Just saying. Think about whether you like that, okay?
I wanted to add something to it. Yeah, one of the things I wanted to add is that these funds are not unlike a municipality, a town or other communities or other responsible budgets that put money into capital reserve with funds from their unallocated balances year after year after year in order to deal with your infrastructure and your repairs to your campus. So this is really prudent fiscal planning on the board's part. So it's not, and it's not funds that, would be allocated to anything else.
And I want to say, does it also help with our bond rating, the way that we structure our capital reserves?
If you have reserves in place, yes, it does help with your bond rating. Also, your contingency helps with that as well, and your unallocated fund balances all help with your bond ratings. Yes, that's correct.
Just supporting, it's hard to get a grip on because it's a little intangible, but my alma mater got way in the hole on that in the 70s, and it took them 20 years to get back up to snuff. So you can't let the deferred maintenance go.
Yeah, and these are items that have been deferred for a number of years, Denny, so that's a good point.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. The reason some of these items have been deferred for so long is that we have been continuously for the last 8 or 9 years spending money, not only from the operating budget, but also from capital reserves to set up modulars, because we do that outside of the operating budget. The actual setup cost of the modulars themselves, putting water, putting electricity, all that stuff that we need to get done. So we've spent so much money doing that for so long, and we're taking a break this summer from doing that. We want to see how the bond passes and whether or not we have to continue immediately. If we can wait a year, we're proposing that we wait a year with this and take care of some of these other things that have been on the list for a long, long time.
Yeah, 'cause, yeah, a lot of work happened last summer, that's for sure, but it was all focused
Mostly modulars,
on the modulars.
as it has been.
Yeah.
I had one last question about the budget. So we've been able to go through and make some changes that actually has brought then the total budget down by a bit. I just wanted to bring up again then the issue of losing the science teacher. And since we have been able to reduce some more, could we add it back in?
My answer would be that's up to the board at this point. So tonight you adopt the budget with your vote, whichever way that vote is. You adopt the budget either way, whether it's as proposed or amended, it becomes your budget. So I think my answer would be it's the board's decision at this point.
Can we get an estimate for how much that would be? We'd be looking at?
Depends on which at what point a teacher is hired, but we're talking anywhere with benefits, could be anywhere from $70,000 to $80,000, $90,000.
At this point, there is no time to amend the budget, okay? I just want to share that with you. We have documents that are here that have to be posted within a certain amount of time for the May 9th district budget meeting. So if you amended that tonight, we would have to have a special meeting, redo those warrants and get things ready for another vote immediately. Okay, and signature, so just so you know. Okay.
And I know during our last meeting on April 1st, we talked about this in a little more detail to try to understand the impact. Okay, what are the class sizes? What are, which classes are being able to offer it or not offered? I think this is a concern, that we are dropping the science position. We do know that our enrollment at our high school right now has been somewhat consistent, but the larger classes are coming, and so I foresee, if it's not addressed this year, that it certainly will be something that we should look to address in the near future, because, yeah.
If it is problematic, if you're looking towards the start of the year and it is problematic, the board does have a contingency that it can go to fund that if necessary.
Yeah, based on the information that we have now, I'm not changing my recommendation, or I wouldn't change my recommendation about that. It was something that we did spend a lot of time looking at class sizes. And I understand the concerns that have been brought forward about this. It's always challenging. Same concerns were brought forward by some elementary staff as well, about increasing class sizes at the elementary school at a time when we're continuing to increase in students. But again, it was a class size review, and it was not about the science department. I also want to say that. It could be any department at the high school, and I said that publicly before, that if we have another vacancy, I would look carefully at that. And Leanne, as you pointed out, we have probably 3 more years of lower enrollment at the high school, and then the projections are the high school will start increasing. And at that point, we'll have to look at staff again. But in the interim, this is the best recommendation that we could come up with.
Right, and I know we've added students, a few students for each grade, but there are certain grades that are very large that will be getting to the high school in a few more years.
And once that happens, we're going to have to add staff, obviously, to account for that.
Right. And I know, I always have this feeling of once something isn't there, it's very hard to get it back. But I also know that there's much larger classes coming into the high school in a few years. I mean, I certainly have concerns about our ability to offer a full science curriculum. Which committee would that be curriculum, or is that high school administration?
It's usually high school administration with the leadership team at the high school that puts those recommendations forward. But curriculum has also been involved in those discussions.
But at this point, class signups have happened for next year for everyone. I don't know if the 8th grade is done
8th grade has started the process.
Okay.
They have started the process.
So just so the board, who maybe doesn't have high schoolers yet, know that schedule. I just learned of it somewhat recently myself, that the class offering for next year has been posted, and I certainly have concerns about what's not able to be offered for this next year, but those signups are happening, and I would really, the board can also ask the administration to report back, like, okay, what aren't we offering? Let's continue to look at this. We don't want to go too long without really better understanding what the impact might be on the loss of this position.
And we have added staff at the high school as needed over the years too, but we also have to recommend at the same time when there's an opportunity to reduce at any level, which we're doing this year. We need to do that as well.
Other questions? Okay. And we have an item for action coming up related to this, but not at this time. Okay. Okay. So speaking of items for action, we are going to move to our first item for action. That is to approve the continuing teacher contracts. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Great, thanks, Jenny. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christina. So can you take us through this item to approve the continuing teacher contracts?
Yep. In your packet, we have a list of probationary and continuing. So the first list, which is the green list, we have 25 teachers being recommended for moving from first year to second year probationary, which means they'll get a second year probationary contract if the board approves this item. This evening, you'll see the yellow list, which is 34 teachers who we're recommending move from second year to third year, which means they go from probationary contract to continuing status in our district, which means that their names don't come before the board every year. So these are teachers, green and yellow, on the green and yellow list. There are on the first and second years of employment in the district. And so we're asking the board to go ahead and move these forward so that we can issue contracts to these teachers for next year.
Any questions about the list or the process?
Is that a larger than usual number because of the hirings over?
It is a little bit larger than normal. I have to say the list of teachers going from second to third year that are being recommended tonight is definitely larger than usual. We generally have 15 to 25 teachers over the years, and a lot of it is that we've been increasing rapidly in enrollment. We also had some of those increases were from COVID. We end up hiring some of those people on when we had openings. If they were in a one-year only position, we hired 10 people in that situation, and then we've hired people additionally. So they might have been hired into a full-time position when someone left, and now they are on their second and final year with us. So that is probably the biggest reason we have so many people on the second to third year list.
Because they were, brought in
They were
during
brought in, and
COVID.
several of these people were with us during COVID and then end up applying and getting a job with us for a permanent position. So the other big area is, if you remember, we did not, when we had ed tech vacancies 2 years ago, we ended up hiring a lot of our social workers, speech language, OT, to fill those positions. So we end up hiring 15 embedded staff members who go into our special ed programs and didn't fill ed tech vacancies in exchange. So for every 2 ed techs or so, we hired a specialist because we could not find ed techs. There were no applicants for a couple of years.
If they were already employed as in another position and how do the years count?
We hired people outside the district for those positions. There was very little, there was almost no one, I can't think of anybody that, someone might have moved over to that position, but we filled their position. And there's one at the high school that I can think of in particular.
So if someone moves over, if they have already put in 1 or 2 years, do those years count, or are they on?
Oh, they're still continuing. They don't have to start over. But when we hired to fill their position, there was a social worker, for example, at the high school who chose to go to this new model. When she did, we filled her position. So those are the 2 big reasons why this list is a little larger than usual.
Jeff, could you comment, to the extent you know it, of the big picture on getting qualified teachers to want to teach? I read, I think, a lot in the main papers and certainly in the national papers that this is a dearth, a problem. So to me, the idea that we have 34 qualified candidates to move forward and be recommended for tenure is a very good thing. But can you give a little big picture?
I think big picture-wise, when I talk to my colleagues in southern Maine, we have a little bit, maybe a better pool of applicants in terms of people coming, wanting to work here. So our applicants are still, our applicant numbers are pretty strong still in our district. There's a few areas that we had a hard time filling and still have a hard time filling, and those are specialty areas like special education. Might be a very specific role in the district. There's very few applicants because there's very few people that are trained or have experience. But for the most part, we're still seeing a fairly strong pool. In our administrator numbers, we have a principal opening right now. Those numbers are bouncing back. Those numbers were very small 3-4 years ago, and we're starting to see an increase. But I think overall in Maine, there's fewer people going to school to be teachers, to be certified as teachers. And so we're drawing people from out of state too, who want to work in the Portland area, I think.
And
being near Portland helps us.
I think it was notable to me that the Department of Education, I think, has authorized emergency hiring for up to 9, was it 7 or 9?
Even social studies, which I never thought that area, I thought there was a lot of applicants for social studies. but they just added
So,
social
so
studies.
many Maine districts are gonna be basically bringing in unqualified people.
Yes,
to
with
fill-
emergency, yeah.
So anyway, I'm very grateful that we have an opportunity to look at this.
In our district, I think we might have 1 or 2 on emergency certification right now. But again, we generally attract, and those are specialty areas, we generally attract a fairly, enough applicants to be able to fill with a qualified person. And in our district, we almost never hire or rarely hire people that are right out of college. We have the, good fortune of being able to hire someone that has 3 to 5 years' experience, or 7, sometimes more.
And I would just want to put in there the term unqualified. Perhaps you mean like not yet qualified, willing
yet
and
qualified,
yet.
yes.
It's not that they're hiring someone who totally doesn't want to be there and they're dragging the body in. So
They have a college,
wanted to
they
put
have a
that
college
out there.
degree, they're qualified to do the job, they just don't have the certification yet.
Right,
the state
teachers don't go into
certification.
teaching without
And we
some-
actually have, we've talked to the department, and we've tried to talk to them about this. We hire people from out of state, and sometimes the out of state, the reciprocity with another state is not there.
Right.
Even with Massachusetts, we hire people from Massachusetts, and all of a sudden, they're not certified anymore, even though they were teaching in that content area, the same content area in Massachusetts. Even though the department has made a lot of inroads in this area, that we're still falling down in this area in Maine, and it's making,
Yeah.
it's very
there's a
difficult.
certification
It's actually
issue.
it's actually a big problem, because I mean, then you're having people who have advanced degrees, have multiple years of teaching experience, who are required to go back and take additional college courses just so they can get a
In that
Maine
particular
teaching
instance,
license.
it's 4 college courses in order to get the certification, so.
Well, we have a teacher right now who's very qualified from Massachusetts. I believe has to take at least 6 courses in order to get certification. It doesn't make any sense. And I've talked to the commissioner directly about this. I don't understand why this continues to be an issue, but it is in Maine. So the legislators, we've also talked to legislators
Yeah,
about
because not having with Massachusetts just seems,
it. It just doesn't make any sense.
okay. All right, so any other questions? All in favor of approving the continuing teacher contracts? Great. And then can I get a motion for the probationary teacher contracts?
I move to approve probationary teacher contracts for 2024-25 as presented.
Thank you, Christina. Can I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Megan. Any additional questions, probationary teachers? Okay, all in favor? Unanimous? Okay. So our last item for action is a vote to call and approve the warrants. I know we have quite a script here to read for the warrants.
I can take this one.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. So we'll do this all at once. So I move that the warrant for the Maine School Administrative District number 51, afterward known as the district, budget meeting presented to the meeting be approved, and that a district budget meeting be called for May 9th, 2024, for the purpose of voting on the annual budget for the district for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. I move that the warrant and notice of election for the district budget validation referendum presented to the meeting be approved, and that a district budget validation referendum be called for June 11th, 2024, for the purpose of approving the budget adopted at the district budget meeting for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. And I move that the form of the notice of amounts adopted at budget meeting presented to this meeting be approved, and that the superintendent of schools of the district be authorized and directed to complete said notice in accordance with the district budget meeting on May 9th, 2024, and to cause copies of said notice as completed to be delivered to the municipal clerks of each municipality of the district for posting at the polling places for the June 11, 2024 district budget validation referendum.
Thank you, Tom. Can I get a second?
Well read and seconded.
Okay, Christina, thank you. Any questions? I know that was a lot to take in.
Tom is very trustworthy, though.
Yes.
Yes.
I just have a process question.
Sure.
So I've been to these budget meetings quite a few times over the last few years, but it's not clear to me that, so if we make changes at that meeting, how that then affects the referendum on the voting date, but then also for absentee voting, if everything's been printed already. How are those changes reflected?
So by law, if something changes at the district budget meeting, it does have to be changed on the ballot by June 11th. And for absentee voting, the question just says, do you approve of the last amount that was voted at the district budget meeting? And so when absentee starts, which is only, I think, a few days after, and we've worked with the towns this year, so we're before absentee balloting, and state law obviously also changed, and working with our legislators. That's the question they're answering. So they're answering it based on whatever that district budget meeting, and having all the information, so they have to make sure that people that have absentee ballots know what they're voting on.
Okay, thank you.
You want to add anything, Scott, that I missed on that?
No, I think you got it.
Got it, thanks.
Any other questions? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
You want to start with the signatures
Start with
now?
the signatures? Okay.
All right.
We're gonna keep the signatures on TV, so everybody can see everybody signing, as we did at the last meeting.
Thank you. And the next step is the superintendent's report while we're working through
No, I've got like 10 of them.
signatures.
So the first one that the board will be signing is the warrant to call the district budget meeting. So we need all these copies signed. Please sign in the same place on each one of the documents. And then the second one that'll be signed is the warrant and notice of election, which is the referendum.
No, we have one in June, so I'm gonna do June and just study for math and then.
Yes, we'll just leave everything going. Yep.
Thanks.
Sorry. I'll get better at that.
I did basically perfect on reading and then struggled on math, and that was just because I ran out of time.
I wonder where the clock went.
I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, it was.
Time doesn't
where
matter.
is it? I don't know why I'm signing this.
Okay. Yeah, then we've got to start where you signed it, right?
Yeah, I'm expecting.
All right.
I need to get working on
All right, we'll be really careful.
history apparently, because Miss Perkins and I narrowed it down. So.
Oh, this is for the.
It's just like, it's dawning on me that I actually have to do it outside of school. So I'm like, oh,
But somehow the EE just gets done.
So this, the second one, just make sure you sign at the top.
I might.
This place is for the board at the top. You'll see the
I have
warrant.
a ton of summer homework. Did you have a ton of summer homework?
I didn't do much. I didn't do much of anything.
Did she give you a ton of bio or no? Thank you.
No, she gives you no bio.
Oh, that's great.
Your bio summer homework is to do everything else, so you can do bio and do the.
I don't know, like, just, I don't know, like,
No matter how much you prepare, it's kind of
these are not, they're just like
brain thing. Yeah, it's weird to think about.
I'm sure it'll feel normal. Forming the same letters.
So much signing.
Oh, they're all different.
Every budget item.
Oh my god.
Oh my, no, it's not actually. It's every, it's all of these.
Prize at the end of
It's fun.
Superintendent's
the
report.
cookie plate down, you know?
Did you have write your recommendation letters? Did I already ask you that?
Ms. Dowdy, Mr. Langston, and then Ms. Rodriguez.
Oh, we got this. Got it.
I asked Mr. Livingston today, and I didn't think about it, but I had to ask him a question anyway, so I was like, I may as well do it now. But I was like kind of weird about it. It wasn't, he said yes, and he was like, yeah, of course. But he was just like, I think it was just like him being awkward. So pretty much, because I was like, this, I don't know. I think I like
That's so cool.
I've shed tears to him. It's a little bit freaked out.
Yeah, he definitely does.
And yeah. But then like I don't know. Like how do you make sense? And I was I had an first quarter and then it's been going down since then.
What do you?
Oh, yeah.
But everyone always wrote cool. So like,
And it's like it feels personal.
My husband's like on the bus coming from Boston.
I'm just like, what am I doing wrong?
I think it gets easier. Or maybe you just grow into your shell more.
Oh my god.
Also might be Miss Inman.
father flew in for
Also it might be how much Miss Inman will exceed because Whitney gets on.
One of my sisters and I helped with the prep.
Why do you need so many copies?
Getting back at
Yeah.
Getting a copy of last one.
Like physically posted. My husband's one.
Okay, I guess he gave me a 96, which is like, it's nice.
98 is
And I'm the only one that lives there. He gave me a 96.
I'm 17, 76.
Someday it'll be more stringent.
Oh, there's one more? Oh, what a tease.
So like a food stop, they go to, they go,
Really, that's what I was thinking, Denny.
So I'm scared.
I would have signed it more prettily, you know?
Were you with me whenever you were? Whenever you
I
asked
kept
Jordan?
them somewhat well organized for you
She
there.
has something against her.
Oh, there's another one.
Turned into an And she never comes to student
And
government.
before, I had never
You have two
been.
signatures, one signature is
Yeah.
my school, and this one's
I don't know, but she has something against me. I don't want to,
Speed
I'm so
version.
scared
Yeah.
to run against her.
Yeah,
because
and
she's
like
like,
make out like
A couple more.
a.
I won't go into detail. I'm sure he doesn't.
All right.
I feel like
We're
she'll
almost-
upset that she
almost
doesn't
done.
get it. Like, I mean, naturally.
She hasn't been.
so I have a sustainability subcommittee meeting Wednesdays.
So yeah, this
So I'm gonna bring up
Yeah,
your
I
chicken,
don't either, but
see what they think.
Takes care of
her head's set up, and it's just.
And they could fund it up to the LCC
like when, yeah.
and,
I love school. That's, I was talking to Fiona about it. I was like, I'd stay in high school for my
they
whole
want,
life.
you know, if they come in that end, the town council is part of the board that
I feel like I'm hoping, I don't know, like,
it's gotten out of hand
my
again.
ED, because like,
It makes
like,
things better if
no,
you get in
it doesn't, because I don't know where I want to
One thing is,
And what if I apply
it's attractive to so many
and
people.
then I get into somewhere in California that's really
miles
good?
around. There used to be blog postings, aggravation island, professional dog walkers wouldn't be getting in there. I think we solved that problem by cutting it down to 3 and a leash.
Great.
Those comments are-
Okay. I think we're good.
All right, well, the superintendent's report. Happy to talk real quickly about the students at Mabel Wilson School. After the eclipse, we had 265 pairs of used eclipse glasses that students donated back to the school to share with other countries. whenever their best sighting, I guess, of the next eclipse. At Greeley Middle School, we had the Cumberland County Special Olympics Swim Meet, which is an annual event. Congratulations to all of the student athletes who completed in the Cumberland County Special Olympics on April 10th in Cape. Congrats to Ellie, Bo, Royce, Ayla, Isaiah, and Avery. They took home 3 first-place prizes, 2 second-place prizes, and 4 third-place as well. So congratulations to all of our Special Olympians. At the high school, a core component of an IB education that enriches each student's time throughout junior and senior year is the monthly CAS, Creative, Active, and Service Experience. Actually, Tommy, do you want to talk about this? I really should let you talk about this.
So basically, CAS is what makes you like a well-rounded student, and more than just school, you also have this kind of outside experience each month, where you can just kind of explore your different passions and interests outside of school. And then it culminates senior year after you've done like 20 CAS experiences. You have a CAS project, which includes 2 of these components: creativity, activity, or service. It has to combine at least 2 out of the 3. You can do 3, and then you form a project of something you're interested in, and then we presented it in here.
How many CAS experiences do you have to have?
Like 1 a month.
Wow. That's a lot.
So, yeah, not 20, like 15.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's great, though. I had a chance to drop in and hear Tommy's, along with other students. It was very, very exciting. And Sophia, I think you were there listening, right?
I was there, and I was listening, and I was getting inspiration for my next year project.
Getting your homework done there, that's good.
Yeah.
Also at the high school, these are not encompassing of all of our teams. These are the photos I was able to find quickly on social media. But we have, all of our teams have been really started mostly last week and the week before. And so they're in full swing. Rangers rock. The high school math team had a great day at their recent meet. Came in 9th out of 23 teams in the division. Finney and Lacey came in 6th place for all sophomores in the division, earning 61 out of 72 points. Congratulations. And this is a video from Kyle Cares, and this was actually on WGME. So I'm going to go ahead and just play this. Real quickly. GME News. I'm trying to avoid the ads. That's what I'm doing here, but I may not be able to.
Business owners, you might be entitled to compensation as part of a $5.6 billion payout. If your business accepted Visa or MasterCard, visit topclassactions.com today to find out more.
I'm Scott Hardy, and here at Top Class Actions, we help right wrongs.
There's a new club at Greeley High School that's helping students and athletes who may be dealing with mental health issues.
It's an important platform that's giving kids an outlet to talk, listen, and heal. CBS 13 Sports Director David has more.
Go. Greeley senior Charlie Anania is getting ready for his spring season on the Rangers track team.
One more, Coach.
It wasn't long ago when Charlie was destined to be the Rangers' starting quarterback.
I was ecstatic.
But during his sophomore season, playing in a JV game, Charlie took a bad hit that landed him in the hospital.
I definitely felt my side hurting really bad after the game.
As it turned out, the hit may have been a blessing in disguise.
I say the hit saved my life.
Doctors discovered Charlie had an enlarged heart and a rare genetic lymphatic disorder. He underwent a life-saving procedure at Philadelphia's Children's Hospital.
I got through it, and I'm good.
Unfortunately, Charlie's football career was over.
My whole life just broke apart, and I was confused, I was scared, I was angry. I was behind in school. I was behind in sports. I couldn't play the sports I loved. Oh! I didn't hang out with my friends anymore. My mental health was at an all-time low.
Soon after, Charlie turned adversity inside out.
sometimes your problems are opportunities in disguise.
After attending a National Honor Society conference, Charlie learned all about the Kyle Cares Foundation, which helps teens and young adults who are struggling with mental health issues. He was so impressed and so inspired, Charlie, along with some of his closest friends, helped bring Kyle Cares to Greeley High School.
We have helped so many people already at the school, and I really hope I can help so many people elsewhere.
Tons of kids have joined and tons of kids have opened up to us, and we've just been able to help so many people.
And on Sunday, April 28th, the foundation will be hosting its first ever Mental Health Matters 5K, with proceeds benefiting the Kyle Cares chapter at Greeley High School.
I think this 5K gives us an opportunity to expand out, go to these other schools like Freeport who also have chapters, and just really just get a whole sense of community.
For Charlie, his message is simple, but so powerful.
I wanted to bring it to students in my school who need help and who suffer silently every day. And I just want to let them know it's okay to not be okay, and we're all here for you.
In Cumberland, David, CBS 13 Sports.
Yeah, tremendous that Charlie's talking about that. So important.
All right.
That voice he's talking
I thought
about.
that was
For Dave to
really
put a spotlight on it.
inspiring, and hopefully you found it to be inspiring as well. Obviously, Kyle's Care is something we've talked about a lot this year, but this is really a student initiative at the high school, and really excited to have it. In the superintendent's notebook, just a reminder that we have a lot of upcoming events, and I know Megan probably is going to talk about this with the Community Engagement Committee. We have this on social media. We have it on our website. We do have one tomorrow night, is the first virtual one tomorrow night, 6:30 to 7:30, and we'll be talking about the overall school and campus design. The other virtual events that are coming up, we have one every week, different days of the week, all at the same time, 6:30. But there is a safety one on May 6th, which is a Monday. We have another session on financing the school project, which is on May 16th. And we have the turf field, I skipped that one, on May 1st, which is next week. And these sessions are only about these topics, basically. Tomorrow's session is really encompassing of all the detail. With the architects, we'll be presenting and then taking questions during that hour from people who would like to join. There's information about if you want to participate in the meeting and ask a question, or if you just want to view, you can go onto YouTube and view it that way. But if you actually want to ask a question and participate in the meeting, there is information on our website in order to do that. And just go to our, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. I say go to our website all the time, then people say, what are you talking about? So if you go to our website under district, there's a school building project page. And on the school building project page, we have frequently asked questions that the Community Engagement Committee has put together. Actually, I'll just click that. Did an admirable job on putting this information in one place. There's drop-down information. You can get answers on things that you might be thinking about, some questions on the page. But then there's also on this page information about the upcoming meetings, whether they're in person. The Community Engagement Committee is hosting a bunch of events. And then we have this virtual series. And finally, tonight, I am very excited. We just received these today. This is the virtual rendering of what the proposed school will look like, and I'm having trouble with the internet on this page, so I'm going to go back to my presentation and show it to you there, if I can get back there. Maybe I'll get to it here. All right, here we go. So this information, this right here is also a new graphic. This is not the rendering, but just showing the placement of the school. Here goes the rendering, hopefully. Hopefully your internet is working a little bit better than mine is right now. All right, I'm going to come back to that. this is worth showing. I think a lot of people are doing their homework tonight because the internet's not working. In Cumberland, North Yarmouth. All right, here we are. So this is the rendering that we just received today, taking the floor plans and looking at what the proposed school would look like on campus. So we've got the top view, and then you've got an aerial view where you can look at the proposed school. You could see a lot of the pieces the architects have been talking about, and where the new, not only the new building, but where the play areas are in the back and on the side for pre-K, bus drop off, the reworked roadway going through the school. But I think this is stuff that will be, I think, fleshed out more in the next few weeks, but we wanted to give you that first look, and it's on our website on the building page, so please check it out for all information about the school. That's the superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. Whew. Excited to see the outside,
It is
what it looks
exciting.
like.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move to committee reports. Start with our students. Go ahead,
Okay.
Sophia.
So, I mean, not much has been going on. Today was our first day back from April break. So we're in the home stretch, especially Tommy and the seniors. But we still have a couple more months to go. A month and a half. And then prom tickets have been on sale, and the last day to get them is Friday. So there's a lot of excitement buzzing about prom. We're really excited. The juniors are the ones who've been doing all the work. And then juniors who take AP classes, their exams are coming up. So, yeah.
It's going to be outside again this year, the prom?
I don't know. Homecoming was the one that we do outside.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
So
about
prom,
that.
we're doing it at the Woodlands.
But there is an outdoor
It's
patio.
yeah, it's good. Like I'm very excited.
There's
It
some
looks like
outdoor
it's going to be a
stuff.
success. Yeah.
Yeah. And for the seniors, it really hit me last night. And I talked to a lot of my fellow seniors today that this was the last Monday of the last full week of school before exams begin, and then the kind of slide into senior projects, which feels really weird. I feel like coming out of April break, it just kind of shocked me. But with that note, we have exams coming up. The first exam for any senior is this Friday, and then rolling into next week, a lot of AP and IB exams begin, and then the next 2 weeks after that, there continue to be a lot of exams. Prom is coming up. That will mark the end of exam season, and the Friday before the Saturday is the last Friday that seniors are in school. And then also Greeley's Got Talent, as said, is coming up this Friday, which is super exciting. Or no, sorry, next Friday. And then also, as was talked about in the newsreel, we have the Kyle Cares 5K, which a lot of sports teams are rallying behind and getting really excited about raising money for the great cause. And I know that there are a lot of students and members of sports teams who will be volunteering and running. So, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Oh, and also for the seniors, May 1st is the enrollment deadline for most schools. So that's going to be that means that upcoming a lot of kids are going to know where they put their deposit down if they haven't already.
Great.
Yeah, but the FAFSA deadline has been pushed out again.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yes.
Yeah. Oof. That's extra stress to them,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
that whole process.
Thank you. Community engagement.
Lots going on with community engagement. There are posts up on social media from both Melissa and from the Community Engagement Committee with lots of great, colorful information. Those are being shared on Facebook with booster clubs and sports teams, etc. Upcoming events, as Jeff mentioned, there are a couple online events, including tomorrow night. May 1st is a discussion all about turf, including turf safety from both an environmental and a orthopedic standpoint. May 6th is a safety coverage, and May 16th financing. And thank you, Jeff, for pointing out how to get that information. That's been asked a lot. Where will that be? It's on the website. In-person events. This is exciting, and this is an opportunity for all board members to join us to talk about the upcoming school project, the upcoming vote. May 4th, we'll do a walkthrough right here by that white fence that Christina is fond of. That's at 11 a.m. May 11th will be at the North Yarmouth Community Center, and that's a kid-friendly afternoon event. And May 13th will be at Valhalla. That's an evening event. I attended a Lions Club meeting last week to put a face to the school board, answered some questions about the upcoming project. That was helpful. We'll have a June 1 event at Prince Memorial Library on a Saturday morning during a busy time where we'll answer questions. School board will be on site. And Leanne updated the select board. I updated town council a couple weeks ago with a very lively discussion, many, many questions. So lots of good things happening with the engagement committee.
Thank you. Yes, and really heating up here in the last, over the next few weeks. And just also with all of the virtual events, if you're not able to attend at the time, it will be posted.
Yes, they'll be recorded and posted.
So that'll be really great to have that. And we hope by the end of the week, by this weekend, we'll have information on the financing and the mill rate impact for our voters. So that'll be coming soon. We know that's one piece that has been a lot of work is going into getting the bond information so we could put that out. But so we're excited to have that information as we go into some more of these events. So thank you. And there is one just about financing.
There is, yeah,
yep.
May 16th.
May 16th, but we'll have that information out beforehand. So thank you. Speaking of finance, Tom?
This Friday we've got a joint meeting with facilities, and as Leanne mentioned, we'll gain a lot more clarity about the financing of this project and the tax impact. So that'll be the next big step, and then we will start to communicate that with the public. Oh, and the district budget meeting, we have set that for May 9th. So tell your friends, tell your family, come on out.
Thanks, Tom. And policy?
We have two policies for first read tonight. The first is policy IHCD, which previously only addressed advanced placement courses, which has now been expanded to also include our IB courses. And then the second is BDF, which is for all of our other board committees and board special committees or task forces. Because currently policy BDE only addresses our standing committees of policy and finance. So all of our other committees we currently didn't have a policy for. This policy may seem a bit clunky because we wanted to incorporate all of our other policies under this, but it's certainly something for the board to consider moving forward if they want to restructure how our committees are delineated and whether we just want to have standing committees and special committees or task forces. But the policy committee still wanted to bring this forward for a first read, just to even see about, getting this adopted to cover our committees as they currently stand, and also to open the door for this conversation.
And when this was being looked at, were the bylaws also discussed? Because I know the two really work in concert.
Right, so this policy was drafted to match the bylaws.
Okay. Is there any questions about either policy and any of the updates?
I just have a technical question. So the term advisory is being struck?
Oh, well, no, sorry. That was when we sent the draft to Drummond. Policy BDF for most districts is only addressing
special committees and task forces or advisory committees.
Okay.
And so when the initial edits were sent back, they had added advisory, but since we wanted it to incorporate all of the policies, that's why it was struck in the title.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Thank you, Anne. Christina, facilities.
So we delayed our monthly facilities meeting so that we can meet, have a joint meeting with finance the end of this week. So no comment at the moment.
Great. Tom, curriculum?
No real update there. I need to reschedule a meeting.
Okay, thanks. Equity, I guess, Kim, who's the chair, and Tim, who's the other member, aren't here tonight, so don't really have an update. And I know Kim was not here a little unexpectedly, so I don't have an update from her either. So I know that work, now that the equity plan was adopted, I know they've met recently, so I'm sure Kim will provide an update at our next meeting. Ad hoc committees. Any ad hoc committees? Thanks.
So we did have our community partners meeting since the last full board meeting, and both the PTO and Foundation 51 are helping with distributing information about the campus project. And PTO also put out one of the avenues for that was their spring newsletter, which came out recently and also includes a lot of good information about the enrichment that they've funded. And additionally, Filibus Filibelli is happening this week, so if anyone has food items to contribute to that to benefit the Cumberland Food Pantry, I believe the bus is in the parking lot between Mabel Wilson and the middle school currently. They have their Silver Graphics fundraiser coming up, and when we have that next budget meeting, we'll also be in the middle of Staff Appreciation Week, so just something to keep in mind.
Coming right up. Great, thank you. Any other committee updates? Okay. And that's where my printed version ended. Is the next item adjournment, or is there something else? Communications. I tried, right? 7:59. Okay. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of things under communications anyway, just around everything going on with the new school. I don't have anything else to add here. Okay. Well, can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you, Annika. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Christina. All in favor? All right, unanimous. Oh, well, actually, Denny, do you want to stay
Yeah,
longer?
no, my hand is definitely.
It was up. I saw it.
I saw it. Thanks, everyone.